Ooh, look what you
Oh,
brought back for today's episode,
are you
Benny.
starting a fire?
Next to my mouth on a joint.
JP, please play 5 seconds of We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. I was trying to think of what's a funnier fire song, that Billy Joel song or the Bruce Springsteen one. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Yeah, this can't start a fire without a spark. Even Dancing in the Dark. That's the name. JP, you don't need to play 5 seconds of that. I think I just nailed it. So I think our listeners got it.
All right, good. Thank you.
I feel like the way you sang that song makes it clear you're not a Bruce Springsteen fan, Terry.
No, I am a Bruce Springsteen fan.
Oh, good.
That song just blanked on me a little bit. I listen to more than just Wu-Tang Clan. I've heard Bruce Springsteen is one of the best live performers in music history. So I've always wanted to see Bruce live, and also even if you don't love Bruce's, aka the Boss's music, I feel like he's always been like a good advocate for like younger musicians coming up. I don't have a ton of examples of that, but I've seen him on social media and on TV and at award shows, like talking about young musicians and emerging artists and things like that. So he's not the OK Boomer of the OK Boomer generation of musicians.
Not to take you listeners away from listening to our podcast, but he has a great podcast with President Obama. I think it's called Made in America or Born in the USA. Something like that.
No, it's called like Renegades or something, isn't it?
Oh, it is called Renegades. Yep. So not anything like what I said on either of the two.
Belligerent Bees, Barack and Bruce. They drink on their podcast too.
They do.
I tried so hard to find the name of my beer for tonight. I tried to search for it in Untapped, and I could not find it. And then I realized it's
really
part of the name is the artwork, and I couldn't really tell what the artwork was. So I'm just searching for like the written part of it, and it took me far longer than I'd like to admit to finally find the beer because I actually just scanned the barcode.
Okay, my beer tonight's kind of obvious, but I do have a few beer shout outs to make. But we're gonna wait to get into the beer segment until we're joined by drum roll please. Beaver Blitzes and Damn Podcast own Carter Bahns. Carter, who seemingly is at every single Oregon State sporting event, will be joining us momentarily. And Carter wants in on the episode toast. So we're not going to toast until Carter gets here.
All right. Then we'll wait.
We'll wait. We're waiting for Carter. But this is a fun recording because this is the first time that multiple of us have been traveling while recording this. So we have different microphones, different internet. So I hope it all goes well. But JP is in Sonoma, while Benny is still in Tacoma. And I'm in a city that doesn't fit that rhyme scheme. I'm in Florida.
Oh, it makes me so mad. I was really looking forward to that.
But yeah, we're now 3 full hours apart from each other. We're officially bi-coastal. And I have my normal microphone with me, but it's usually attached to a stand that keeps it in place. That is weighs a metric ton, and somehow
you look like a news reporter.
I know. I'm holding my microphone with my fist. So, listener, I'm sorry if I go in and out over the course of this episode. I'm trying to keep it in place.
Hey, you're like the podcast version of Freddie Mercury right now.
Hey. It is past 10 p.m. here on the East Coast, and I really don't want to get a noise complaint for podcasting. I feel like these walls are fairly thin at this Philadelphia Marriott. Shout out Marriott. This has been my home this will be my 5th night here, and I am ready to get the fuck home. But it's been as lovely of a stay as possible for that duration of time.
You've been so MIA on the group chat.
I've just been busy. Anytime I don't text constantly, you're like, Terry, what's wrong? Who hurt you? Where are you?
I'm worried about you.
Yeah, I was like, I'm at I was, standing up. I was talking about the under review, part of representing your intellectual property. A lot of people were commenting on how cool the logo is, and I was giving you props. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
did they like your shirt, by the way?
They did like my shirt. I only wore it the first day of the conference because I didn't want it to get gross. And now it's the only shirt. I'm out of clean shirts, but it's not that unclean. But yeah, it got a lot of compliments early on. So
let me see it. I don't think I've seen that. So
it has the under review logo here and the secondary logo here, and it says nice. I love this Meg in the same font and design as the 90s NBA Jam I love this game campaign.
Yeah,
which is fitting because we are a sports themed literary journal. And this was we've been at a couple festivals now, a couple of different writing festivals now, and this was one where I could truly feel like not necessarily like a tide turning, but we were finding more and more people who were like, oh, like this excites me. Like I don't see this every day. Sometimes you run into like 70-year-old people who don't care about you can care about sports in your 70s, not to be ageist, but typical 70-year-old poets in the 60 whatever age Papui age is 60 plus who are at like poetry conventions. I'll be like, yeah, it's this online journal, we do this and this artful and whatever with a theme on, and then I say sports and they go, I don't like sports. I don't think it's artful. And I'm like, here's all the way it can be artful. Perhaps you read about us in Best American Essays, motherfucker.
Yeah, damn right.
Damn right. So check out the under review at under review lit on your social media channels and underreviewlit.com. It's a great literary journal. JP made the logo, and the logo looks great, and this shirt looks great.
The logo does look great, and the shirt does look great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, JP, you are also not in Portland where you normally are. What's your situation right now?
Yeah, I'm in Sonoma, California, just in the heart of wine country. I'm looking out now at the nice rolling hills. We've got some rain on the way, actually, even though they had like high 80s here all week until I arrived. Okay. But we're here celebrating my sister's 30th birthday.
Happy birthday, Aaron Bergstrom.
Happy birthday to Aaron.
And you as the good big brother you are, always looking out for her, guiding her, protecting her from harm. In your true brotherly fashion, you iced her for her 30th birthday.
Yeah.
Brought back. Is your drink tonight a Smirnoff Ice?
No, we're saving those for her.
There we go.
So we went to go last night. We went to the store to buy one. And they didn't sell just one Smirnoff Ice. So we bought a 6-pack, and now she's on high alert in every room she walks into. I got her good. I put it in her boot. It was actually like 10:30 this morning. I put it in her boot that she was wearing to go wine tasting, and she was getting ready in the other room and came back in the room to put on
I'm so happy she didn't like stab her big toe on like the ridges of the bottle cap and like have to go to the hospital.
It was sticking out of the boot. It was okay. Yeah.
There you go. That still doesn't beat not to like the way you iced me when we were living together.
I talked about this today.
Because we had a door. It wasn't like tinted windows, but like just at no point in the day could you actually see through the window. Just the way.
And it was also like a hard left into the living room. Like
it was a hard left into the living room, and JP in the height of the icing bros. I'll call it this, an epidemic. The icing bros epidemic. Was able to tie a string from the top of the ceiling into the living room, fastened a Smirnoff Ice to it, so that when I opened the door and took a hard left, I almost hit my head on a floating Smirnoff Ice.
Yep. I nailed a ribbon to the ceiling.
Right.
Of all things, it was a ribbon that I nailed with a giant nail.
Not a very long ribbon either. It was like a leftover Christmas ribbon.
Yeah. And honestly, the nail I had was one of those like huge like wood nails. It wasn't even like a picture nail. So I put a massive hole in the ceiling.
But it was worth
it. It was worth it.
Did you ended up having to get like billed for that when your dad sold the house? Did he have to get someone to come stucco that? Yeah.
No. Fortunately for me, he didn't know about that until today. I actually told that story today. So
good.
Yeah,
it's a great story.
Yeah, I got on video. It was like early days of video. I think I had an iPhone 4, and
the early days of video. It was one of the first silent films ever. Me just walking in with a backward twin set, all confused, and
a North Face zip up.
That's right.
That was my uniform for a good chunk of time there.
It's because I stole all of his other clothes.
I wish that was the reason. That would be a nice excuse. Nice. Well, Benny, how are you? You're at home. You didn't travel this weekend or this week.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. In the last 2 weeks, all of us have traveled to out-of-state trips because I was gone last week.
You've been traveling like crazy, and now you're the one holding down the home front.
Yeah, it was nice. Got to have a very relaxing weekend, which was overdue. So it was awesome. Watched a lot of basketball. Watched a lot of, well, not a lot of, but some soccer. So I was in heaven.
Yeah. Your United States men's national team.
And yours.
Basically.
And yours.
And yours. And ours. All of ours. Oregon State Universities in the Corvallis, Oregon, the Paris of the Pacific Northwest, as we've discussed, which is also located. It's not Paris, though. It's the Paris of the Pacific Northwest, which is located in the United States of America. Looks like we're going to the World Cup. Technically, could still finish fourth with a one-game playoff, but they'd have to lose 6-0 to Costa Rica in Costa Rica, which is a place we've never won a World Cup qualifier. But
if we lost 6-0, we deserve to not go to the World Cup.
Exactly.
There would have to be a lot of really, really catastrophic things to happen for that to happen. So it was a good result today. Looking forward to the World Cup. It's going to be weird to watch in winter this year, but
yeah, that is weird.
Yeah. Well, you can't. If they played it in summer, it would be like 115 degrees during the games.
One of many reasons it shouldn't be in Qatar.
Yeah, one of many. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, speaking of catastrophic, I want to pour one out in memorial of a dear friend of mine who passed away a year ago this past Thursday. His Twitter handle was Terry Horsebot, who had a full life of 3 hours until he was banned from Twitter from being reported as a fake account by none other than the man sitting across from me today, who murdered Terry Horsebot.
How dare you?
I will never forget you, Terry Horsebot.
Before I reported Terry Horsebot to Twitter, I sent it to you, and you told me to report it. Because I was like, there's one person who would think this is funny, and that person is you. And my intuition was right. It was you, and you denied it being you. So I was like, oh, this is weird.
They were too fast. I was going to tell you I was kidding, and it literally like instantaneously banned me. Yeah. I still have it in my Twitter app. It still shows up as like a selectable account.
Talk about what Terry Horsebot was, though, because it wasn't an account just pretending to be me. No, it was like a mashup account.
Yeah, so I found this like service that you could put somebody's Twitter handle in, and it would be like, it was called like My Next Tweet or something. And so I put Terry's Twitter handle in, and then set up like a macro on my MacBook where I'd like press a keyboard shortcut, and it would go to mynexttweet.com or something, put Terry's handle in, hit generate, and then it would mash up all of his prior tweets into this most incoherent tweet of all time. And then it would send it off for me from Terry Horsebot. And some of them are really, really funny. And that's kind of why I miss them so much. But most of them didn't make sense.
No. Do you have any examples of the funny ones pulled up?
I don't. I can't find them. I just have my in memoriam tweet. And then I have a video of me making a tweet. Let me see if I can pause it in the middle of this one, because it's a video showing That could be my next tweet or something. Yes, that can be. Okay, this is, I walked so goddamn nervous in any time a stunning publication. Yes, get it. Thank God. Hope there.
Wait, and did Terry find this naturally?
I think I followed Terry.
JP's pranks are so elaborate and well constructed. I give you props every single time.
I had a stalker, like an identical, very drunk, weird stalker.
That's just you.
I think all of us would report.
I think you're right, but it was really funny.
Yeah, that you got a afternoon's worth of chuckles out of that one, JP. So
yeah, not even an afternoon, 3 solid hours before it was gone, which was the saddest part.
You should have told me to report it. You should have been like, if you had told me like, well, let's see what he tweets next. I would have been like, okay. What if it like mashed it together and like unintentionally put like a really offensive tweet together?
It's not you, it's a bot.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to hold up in the court of public opinion. It's most of my name and my real face, even though I couldn't control it whatsoever. This is by far and away the most entertaining form of identity theft I've ever seen in my life.
You know, it's not identity theft though. We are actually now on TikTok. That is not an impersonation. That is us.
True. That's a real account. That's a real account. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I don't know how to use TikTok. I don't know anything about TikTok. Yeah. I was able to make it say, "Go Peacocks" in like that weird girl computer voice, which was really exciting. But other than that,
we're all in our 30s, and our fake social media intern is in his 50s, so we have no idea how TikTok works. I don't know.
Somehow we're getting followers and a lot of views, which I guess is normal on TikTok. But you should go find us on TikTok. It's really fun. Yeah, it's getting good views.
Are we at Belligerent Beavs on TikTok?
Yeah, I think the @ still works on TikTok. Yeah, it is. It's TikTok.com/belligerent @belligerent beavs, or just find us at Belligerent Beavs in the app. But that, TikTok is really great with its browser-based version. So shout out to TikTok. Yeah. I don't use TikTok, but it's kind of fun. And I'm gonna play the Go Peacocks one now because it's just I can hear it. It's just so good. I wonder if I can play the sound on here. Let me see if I can share my sound. That would be.
You should be able to. You might need to share your screen too to share the audio as well. But when you share your screen, you should be able to share audio.
Okay, so there's my screen, right?
There it is.
And I share the sound. It's gonna be super loud, I feel like. So I'll turn it down so no one's ears blow off. Ready?
Yes. Go Peacocks.
Hey, it didn't sound as robot-y as I thought it was going to.
I know, but it does sound cool. It's like the TikTok voice.
Is that the TikTok voice?
Why does my dog do this? It's like it's just. Every single TikTok has that. No one talks in TikTok. They just use that woman's voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not true. I see TikToks where people talk.
Well, what kind of TikToks are you watching, man?
I don't know. The ones people send me who are on TikTok, because I'm not on TikTok.
That is our most viewed TikTok. Was that one I just played?
Do we have
more views on that TikTok than listeners of our most listened to episode? Don't say actual numbers, but really.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Oh
nice.
My God.
I think we need to shift gears.
We need to shift gears and shift ages and be other people.
We should talk about this off air, though. We should talk about this because maybe we might want to do that.
Okay, not tonight because I'm on Eastern time, which makes it way later. This would not work. If I actually lived out here, we wouldn't have a podcast.
Yeah.
We'd be like going out at this time in college. That makes me feel old.
No, not for us, Benny. We would not be going out for us at this time of night.
Yeah, we'd be eating dinner at this time.
No, at Terry's time.
Yeah. No, we'd still be eating dinner, dude. We would go to like Sancho's at midnight. Like we were literally like, we're not going before midnight.
We'd be waiting on a pizza pipeline delivery.
Maybe we would be at home
on a deal that we didn't actually have. We'd call pizza pipeline, say we had coupons for the 2 pizza, 2 large pizza, 2 soda with the souvenir cup special, and they wouldn't check upon delivery. And we'd just be like, cool. And we'd pay the actual coupon price. I don't know if those coupons ever existed, but we said we had them for a long time. And a lot of
fake it to make it.
The Townhouse boys got really excited when we got to the point where we could play full beer pong games with just pizza pipeline cups.
That's amazing.
They were really tall and narrow. It's a totally different game. Bouncing got real hard.
I told the story, I think, but like when I was a freshman, we would get pizza pipeline Colossus pizzas delivered, and they were so big, right? You had to tilt it to fit it in the doorway of your dorm.
Yeah.
And it actually was like
crazy.
It was a perfect size to if you lofted your bed, right? Which I did.
It was a perfect size to sleep on instead of your bed.
It was a perfect headboard. It like pinned perfectly from the ceiling to the top of the bed frame. So you had like a pizza. It was gross because there was still remnants of like cheese.
Of course it was gross.
Just an oil outline of where the pizza used to be.
Did you actually use Colossus pizza boxes as a headboard in college for more than one night?
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's more so I kind of forgot it was there.
No wonder you need keeps. Check out Keeps, listeners. An unofficial sponsor of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. Use promo code Belligerent at checkout for 0% off. Just get on Keeps. It's a good product.
This discount code does not exist. Error message.
Yeah. If you also used a pizza box as a headboard as a freshman at Oregon State, you may also have a receding hairline from decades worth of grease-stained cardboard just seeping into the crown of your head. Wow. When you said the Colossus is where the perfect size, I did not think for a headboard was the end of that sentence.
Well, they were on the ground for like a long time too. This doesn't make the story any better. I'm gonna
Did you think that? Yeah, I was like, did you think that was helping?
Have you guys ever ran into a place or seen a pizza that is as large as Pizza Pipeline without being like a novelty pizza?
No. Well, that was their novelty.
But it was novelty, but it got ordered a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. We may want to ask our incoming guest, who currently lives in Corvallis, aka the Paris of the Pacific Northwest, home of Oregon State University, the Harvard of the Pac-12. It is Beaver Blitz's and the Damn Podcast own Carter Bahns.
Carter Bahns! Yeah!
What's up? How's it going, guys?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Just got back from a run, so my face is all red, but...
That's all right. Our faces are also all red, but not because we were just running.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
Well, you are just in time to join us. Welcome again to the 41st episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. To our listeners and also to our guests for this episode from beaverblitz.com and the Damn Podcast. Carter Bahns. Carter is covering everything Oregon State right now. It kind of feels like I don't know how you sleep, Carter, with even though it's like a dead time. It's like there's 19 sports happening right now, and that's considered the dead time. So,
yeah, it very quickly becomes like my busiest time of year. You know, football season is the driver for us, but I do actually get to sleep during football season. But that crossover in like February and March, where you've got men's basketball entering the postseason, you've got baseball starting up, and then spring football is like. Right. It literally is chaos. Sometimes I don't even know how I do it, to be honest.
For sure. Well, you are doing a great job. Check out all of Carter's work at Beaver Blitz and on the Damn Podcast. Definitely Damn Podcast live on YouTube, which you and Angie Machado, the great Angie Machado, are doing weekly now. Another podcast that likes to enjoy its libations while podcasting. So Carter, you are just in time for the drink segment, and we'll have you go last so that you can prepare whatever you got on tap for tonight. JP from the heart of wine country. I don't know if you're going with wine tonight or if you have another beer or an unscannable beer on the Untapped app. but tell us a little bit about what's keeping you nice and perky this Sunday evening, Jay.
I'm sticking with the IPAs, but I'm going local.
Shocking.
Yeah, this is a 21st Amendment brewery, which is based in San Francisco, so just a little south of where I'm at currently. I picked this out for a reason, and it's just like, the stars aligned. And this is the anniversary IPA because do you remember what happened 1 year ago tonight?
Was this what we were talking about beforehand when you made a fake Twitter account of me?
No, that was a different anniversary.
How many anniversaries are on March 27th?
I can think of one.
1 year ago tonight, we beat Loyola Chicago and clinched a spot in the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament.
Yep. So cheers to that.
Better times.
Cheers. And today we played in the Elite Eight of the women's NIT. So basically, back-to-back Elite Eight appearances.
There you go.
I'd buy that.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. Well, great tribute, JP. And let's just after this, let's just all watch the highlights of Oregon State, Loyola Chicago, and pretend like it was today, and just not tell anybody. Benny with the good cloth.
He pulled out the tall lighter.
He had his
again.
yardstick long lighter after this. So,
but I do have a beer.
Oh, what is that?
It's the same beer as last week because I'm still very excited about the suicide squeeze that we had last week.
There you go.
And it's also delicious.
My not Oregon State University alum, but University of Utah alum Gary Fish.
That's right.
Inspired by Oregon State baseball. For a second, I thought the can looked like a Pacifico.
That's what I thought.
And I was like, are we shouting out Sancho's? Which we always should be shouting out Sancho's. I know it's gone, but Lupe lives on.
Yeah.
And the memories of all the time at Sancho. Carter, was Sancho's gone by the time you were at OSU?
Yeah, it's been gone for a while. I've definitely been to Lupe's a couple of times though, and it's one of the new favorites, I would say.
Nice.
We gotta go to Lupe's. Well, if we showed up and saw Lupe, I wonder if he'd remember us. He probably would.
He would remember you for sure.
Maybe not for good things. But he would probably
for shouting at him to get out of the behind the bar, out of the kitchen.
He'd remember Trent for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, as I've mentioned at the top of the show, I'm currently in Philadelphia. I was able to check out some local breweries here today, including Myers Brewing Company, which I had a great time at. They had a beer named after James Harden, which I don't know if anyone here likes James Harden. James Harden's mom definitely doesn't like JP for very valid reasons from when James Harden played in Corvallis as a member of the Arizona State Sun Devils. So shout out Myers. Shout out to Victory Brewing as well. I don't have one of those. I have a pretty obvious one. I haven't cracked it yet. This isn't really a live tasting, but Pennsylvania's own. I've got a Yuengling traditional lager.
Oh, there you go.
The most, I'd say probably most like well-known, like small-ish kind of brewery here. I don't know. Maybe I just from when I lived on the East Coast a while ago. But yeah, Yuengling, it's good. So yeah.
Cheers.
You're really selling me.
And it's fine. People like I remember when the year I lived in New York, everyone was just like Yuengling, and I'm like, it's just a lager. Like it's cheap, but I don't know. So yeah, I there's a small spot in my heart for Yuengling, but not a big one. So let's get to our honored guest, Carter.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out some Oregon State alums here. I highlighted this one on the Damn podcast a couple of weeks ago when we first kickstarted our Damn podcast live feature on YouTube. But I've got the 10 Barrel Brewing Crush Guava Sour.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, nice.
Huge sour beer fan. It's like,
nice.
I actually, I don't know, I might get some flack for this, but I think sour beer is better than just like your run of the mill, standard beer. I like the fruity flavor that you get with it. I really like cider too. So I think sour beers are kind of that nice like crossover between cider and beer. So 10 Barrel, absolutely love pretty much everything that they produce. As I said, Oregon State alums, the multiple locations in Bend, both of them are awesome. I don't know if you guys have been there, but I also actually went to the one downtown Denver as well when Oregon State was playing at Colorado this year. The football game that, unfortunately didn't quite go Oregon State's way, but, may have been for the best for coaching purposes. But yeah, so I've been to multiple 10 Barrel locations, tried a bunch of their stuff, but I keep coming back to the Guava Sour.
Nice.
Their crushes are a great line. They have some really awesome flavors with that.
Right.
Yeah, I've tried a couple of them. What is it? The green one, I want to say it's like a cucumber sour.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? I haven't tried that one yet, but I'm intrigued.
That on a summer day sounds fantastic.
It's really good. I've had that, and I feel like JP, you introduced me to sours actually, maybe 2 years ago at Great Notion. I think I've had more sours than regular beers since then. So Carter, I'm right there with you and thinking
that's what I like to hear.
Carter, have you been to Great Notion in Portland?
I have not, no.
All right. Well, if you go, say hi to JP because he will be there whenever you show up.
Exactly.
Great Notion in Alberta Arts District. Probably, JP, you're better on the current Portland craft beer scene than I am, but probably the best program for sours around, at least in terms of total amount of possible sours.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
They nail it. And they've got such a variety too. 4 different kind of like fruit sours. So that's your jam, Carter. You should head up.
Good to know. I got to do my homework.
Yeah,
for sure. And speaking of Portland, we do have a football game there this season. So I think we're all planning on being there. Carter, I'm sure you have to be there, but I'm probably looking forward to being there as well. The only football game that will be played, or the only home football game that will be played in a fully completed stadium in the 2022 season. But we're not complaining. We're all excited about that. But Carter, we've got the spring game coming up on April 16th. I'm going to guess that no one has been in the stadium for more spring practices than you, or at least the practices that have been open to the media. So let's just start with sort of the bird's eye view of everything. I know there was a little bit of a break after the first session of spring practices, and they're getting back at it now. Just sort of overall, what has been your main takeaway from what the football team has looked like so far this spring?
Yeah, well, we're on kind of the back end of spring break right now. So they're on a 2-week break they took for finals, and then the spring break that, all of the students get to enjoy. So they'll be back on the practice field in the middle of this coming week. I actually won't be there this week. Angie will be there for us. I'm going to be overseas in Greece for a week.
Nice.
I'm treating myself to a vacation after the aforementioned really busy period of February and March.
Go.
So
good for you, man.
I'm definitely going to be enjoying that, but I will be back in time for the last couple of practices, and then of course the spring game. So I won't be missing too much, but from what I've seen before this 2-week break, we didn't get a whole lot of practice. I want to say it was only maybe like 6 days that were open to the media. And then, about half of that was, no pads, just kind of walking through stuff. But what I have seen is healthy quarterbacks, which is obviously a really good sign. I've seen a quarterback that's not on the roster yet that I hope is. JT Daniels, spotted him at practice one day. He was there on about a 2 or 3 day visit. That was a highlight for sure. But the quarterback competition as a whole, I think it's really healthy right now. The competition and the quarterbacks are healthy. I think having those guys to push Chance Nolan it's a really good thing for the quarterback room because, there's room for improvement there. Even though Chance led Oregon State to 7 wins and had a pretty good year along the way, I think there's definite room for improvement. So seeing those 2 guys healthy on day one was a really good sign. I've also liked what I've seen from some of the guys who are stepping up on defense and filling in new roles. Kyrie Fisher has really shined, in my opinion. Easton Mascarenas also at inside linebacker. And then the secondary, I think, is probably one of the top position groups on this team from what I've seen. They're kind of at the mercy of the front 7. If you're not getting pressure on the quarterback. There's only so much you can do back there. But I think that the talent that they bring back, it's a really nice collection of guys who have really interesting skill sets. You know, a Rajon Wright type who's really lanky, but then Alex Austin who's great in coverage, and then Jaden Grant brings that experience. So I really like what's coming back on the defense. So all around, you know, I've been impressed. I don't think there's any like huge glaring weakness outside of maybe the defensive line from what I've seen so far.
Who do you think is a player that may be off the radar for Beaver fans going into the year? Someone that maybe the average Beaver fan wouldn't know about, that's going to be a household name by the end of the season?
Man, that's a good question. I'd have to think maybe one of the offensive linemen, to be honest, because they don't really get much of the spotlight anyway. But Taliesa Fuaga and Marco Brewer, those two guys stepping into the starting lineup, I don't think you're going to see any drop off on the offensive line this year. And that's saying a lot because, you know, losing Nathan Eldridge, a two-time all Pac-12 first teamer, losing Noose Keobunam, who had been on the offensive line for, it seems like, a decade. That is really, really difficult to replace. You know, experience is half the battle on the offensive line. But I think the fact that those two guys, Brewer and Fuaga, got a little bit of playing time last year and really made the most of it. I've definitely seen that carry over into spring camp. I don't think the offensive line is going to look much different, if any, this year.
That's awesome to hear.
Speaking of offensive line, we've got like a carousel of backs that can run behind them, including a new transfer. Have you seen these guys? Who's looking kind of like they're going to be the guy to replace BJ? Obviously, there's some other replacements as well, some big names with Tegan Cotoriano and Avery Roberts, but like just focusing on the running backs. Has anyone kind of separated themselves yet, or do you think that Griffin's going to come in and grab that top spot?
It's definitely an open competition, I think. I don't necessarily know that you're going to see a featured back right out of the gate. At least, you know, that's not really what I've kind of gathered yet. Deshaun Fenwick comes back, and I think, you know, what he brings to the table is, you know, he could be one of those guys, one of those workhorse backs. But Trey Lowe, what he was able to do in his third down role, and then also I think just kind of the all around, you know, that all purpose back kind of approach that he brings, gives this running back room a lot of different weapons that could get a lot of touches. But the one guy that, you know, has really impressed me, and this is something that I keep coming back to when I talk with Angie and, you know, when I'm, you know, writing my practice reports, is Jonathan Smith doesn't really give true freshmen a ton of playing time. He doesn't really, you know, run them with the ones in practice too much. Damian Martinez, day one, was on the 2 deep on my practice report. He's been taking a bunch of first team reps, and quite frankly, like, you know, none of these running backs have been breaking off huge runs, but he's been right there with them as far as, you know, guys who can take the ball and go 10 yards. He's a guy who can give you a first down on one carry. And that's really impressive from a true freshman who enrolled early, should be a senior in high school. So I fully expect him to be in the mix come fall.
Cool. Carter, I know you've mentioned you've listened to the show, so you probably know that I am the resident worrywart. JP and Ben call me a wet blanket, even though I am the most fun out of the three of them. It's been great. But having said that, I'm very worried about the loss of Keontae Shad, and also when you couple that with the loss of Avery Roberts to the pros, that's just a gaping hole in the middle of the defense. And I know we had some of our best recruits were in the defensive front seven, and we've got some great transfers in the defensive front seven as well. But have any names emerged? I even mentioned a couple already, but just who are going to come in and sort of, not necessarily that anyone should come in and be Avery Roberts. He's another player who it feels like he's been on this team for, you know, a decade and really helped turn the corner from the Lord Voldemort era into the Jonathan Smith era. But have any names emerged to be at the middle linebacker spot and the defensive tackle spots?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the inside linebackers. I mentioned Kyrie Fisher and Easton Mascarenas just a minute ago. And those two guys, you know, the thing about Avery Roberts is he would rack up tackles, but I think if we're being honest, he was at times a liability in coverage. So what I'm going to be looking for this offseason is, what do Fisher and Mascarenas bring in coverage that maybe Roberts didn't? Because I think that these are two guys who could step up right away and bring you some of that tackle production that you saw with him. Mascarenas in particular is a guy who's a hard hitter. So in addition to, being at the right place at the right time, he's not afraid to, put a guy in the ground as well. So I think we actually saw that in the LA Bowl too. If I remember correctly, yeah. I think he made a pretty big hit on someone on the sideline maybe. But yeah, so definitely look for those two guys in the middle of the field. I don't think you're going to see much of a drop off there at inside linebacker. Like I mentioned on the offensive line, it's kind of this recurring thing that I've seen so far in practice is guys stepping up. And these position groups largely look the same. The defensive line, though, is really concerning with the loss of Shad, because as last season went along, I think you really started to see him kind of carve out a role. And, he actually became one of the leading tacklers on this team, which is not something that we have seen from a defensive lineman at Oregon State in a while. Losing him hurts, especially since I keep wanting to say Isaiah Hodgins. Isaac Hodgins is back on crutches now. So I don't know his status. I haven't gotten a chance to ask Jonathan Smith yet. So I don't know if he's going to be able to go this spring. I don't know if he's going to be available come fall. But yeah, he's on crutches. And so that is really concerning to me because, that's your veteran guy there that you're going to rely on. So losing probably your top two guys at a position that just continues to get thinner and thinner every year, that could be a problem.
For sure. Has anyone, we talked a lot last offseason and last spring just about how deep the receiver group was. And it kind of seems like with especially the Griffin transfer, people are talking about the running backs, and we obviously have had a lot of great running backs, especially last year with Baylor, Fenwick, and Lowe looking great. But who has been, has anyone caught your eye on the field this spring from the receiver group? And do you have any predictions for any kind of breakouts, whether it be someone who's been around for a while or a newcomer to that room?
Nobody's really stood out to me this, thus far, which I don't really know whether to be concerned by that or if it just kind of speaks to, this, everyone in this group just kind of, I don't know. I don't think you have to have a go-to receiver for a wide receiver group to be good necessarily. It certainly helps, seeing Isaiah Hodgins and Trevon Bradford kind of take those roles. Obviously, it's good that you oftentimes have somewhat of a safety valve there. But nobody has really stepped up into that role in practice so far. And it is still very early. Like I said, I've only seen like 6 practices, but I would really like to see someone like Trayshawn Harrison kind of step into that role, who's, he's got height, he's got speed, he has all of the tools to be a standout guy. So I will definitely be looking for, one guy to maybe kind of emerge as someone who's, solidified with the first team group, who's, getting a bunch of targets. Zarya Beason is also a name that comes to mind. I think after the year he had last year, I would really like to see him bounce back and kind of establish himself as one of the top receivers on this team. But if there's maybe a dark horse to maybe lead the team in receptions, I think it's Tyjon Lindsey, who until injuries last year actually was, right up there with Bradford.
I would love that.
I've been super high on Lindsey ever since he came in. I feel like he's one of those guys that really performs in practice. And so I see the best of him. But then for whatever reason, game day comes around and maybe he's struggling with drops or he can't get open. But I felt like he was really truly breaking out last year. And, that you look at that game at USC where, I think he went for like 100 yards and a touchdown or 2, if I remember correctly. I think he's capable of doing a lot more of that this year if he stays healthy.
What about a guy like Micaiah Tongue, where Georgia transfer, right? Last year, I remember in camp, it was like there was a lot of talk about his size. Like he just looked like a dude who could ball and
looks like a linebacker.
Yeah, exactly. He just didn't really get a lot of looks and a lot of playing time. He had like 1 reception last year, I think. So Is he a guy that we should keep an eye on, or where do you see him kind of slotting in the receiver depth chart?
Well, to be honest, he has to get healthy first. He missed, probably the last, maybe half or so of last season. He still isn't practicing. He's not on the field right now. I don't know what the injury is. I do know that it's lower body, but I don't have a good read on what his status is right now, when he's going to be available, if he's going to be available. I'm really excited about what he brings, just because you mentioned his size, his athleticism. He's got a combination there that I don't think is matched by anyone on this team. And so if you can get a guy like that on the field, that's an SEC body. That's an SEC recruit who's coming in, and I think could be a difference maker if he stays healthy. But you have to recover before you can make a difference.
So being a handful of games or practices into spring ball, I realize that this is a completely unfair question, but I want to play hypotheticals for a second.
Benny with the haymakers.
What is the ceiling of this team, and how does that change if JT Daniels decides to come to the program?
I was waiting for that part, because my answer was going to be, well, is JT Daniels on the roster or not? If JT Daniels is here, I think this team, I feel like the ceiling is a Pac-12 championship. I really do. I think you could be looking at double-digit wins with JT, just because I don't think of all of the teams that JT is rumored to be considering, West Virginia, Missouri, Oklahoma State, Colorado being the other four, nobody else is as favorable of a landing spot as Oregon State, just in terms of the pieces that I think that they can put around him. You're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the Pac-12, if not in college football. You're going to have a receiving group that has speed, has a little bit of size, and has a ton of experience. I know that some guys are still a little unproven, but I think he can really make the most out of those guys. And then, you've got Luke Musgrave coming back at tight end, some young guys, some really promising young guys there. I mean, the running backs, like you go down the line, and every position group on this offense is just so perfectly tailored to a quarterback like him coming in and kind of unlocking the next level there. So yeah, if he's on the roster, I don't see why they can't win 10 games. Without him, it's still a bowl team, in my opinion, but I think that ceiling drops by a couple of games, and you're probably looking at a 7 or 8 win team at best.
Last week, we were trying to talk about JT Daniels without talking about JT Daniels and not saying the name JT Daniels. And then Ben just dove into a segment with like, well, if JT Daniels comes. So we're not even trying to.
I'm so excited for the potential.
And also, we did mention, too, when I think, Carter, you were probably one of the first people I saw tweeting about this. We were just all, even if he doesn't come, we were just enjoying the speculation that a big name like this has never in speculation been mentioned.
Well, and it puts Oregon State in the spotlight too, which, right. Everything's been so quiet around this program since the season ended. No coaching turnover really to capture headlines or anything. No big transfer portal news until JT, all of this comes out. And I think it's huge for the program to get a little bit of exposure. In today's day and age, social media being a big driving factor in recruiting, NIL being, on the forefront, exposure is everything. And, to get Oregon State in the headlines, to see, videos and to have Oregon State featured in national podcasts talking about, oh, is JT Daniels going to come to Corvallis? That's big because other people hear it. And, if JT Daniels comes, that unlocks so much more potential in recruiting ranks and transfer portal. I think it just unlocks a whole new level at Oregon State.
Worst case scenario, I hope it lights a fire under the current quarterbacks that we have. Like, y'all wanted JT to come here and take my spot. But you saw him on at practice, Carter. I know what JT Daniels looks like, but what did he look like? Was he smiling? Did he look like he dug was he picking up what we were putting down? Did he take a look at Trayshawn Harrison and give like a curt nod, like I can throw to that guy? Like,
it was also a sunny day, right?
It was a sunny day.
He picked a really good time to come to Oregon because I think it was, I think it had broken a streak of a bunch of rainy days, and it was absolutely beautiful that morning.
It's a sign.
But yeah, he was very, I'll say he was very engaged in practice. I don't know what I can and can't say about, what I saw at practice because they are strict about some things. And, I don't want to get Beaver Blitz in trouble or anything, but right. I will say he was very locked into what was going on at practice.
You're guaranteeing JT Daniels to Oregon State, Carter. Is that what I'm hearing?
You heard it here first.
You didn't know this was a gotcha episode.
Hey, if you want a really good tidbit, he was wearing some really cool boots that I think could be from his, I think that Zaxby's NIL deal probably helped him out with those a little bit.
All right. Well, yeah, we're big into the shoe game on this show. So knowing, he's got good boots, guys. Your quarterback has to have dope boots or dope kicks. All right.
Yeah.
It's the must.
One or the other. Awesome. Yeah.
Also, we're really big in NIL. So if JT Daniels wants us to do anything for him, we're willing.
Yeah. we're ready, JT. Are there any Missouri or Oklahoma State or West Virginia, Colorado podcasts ready with NIL offers? Really, it's just we'll send you stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Name your price though.
Hey, you could help him get a signature drink at the Peacock.
There you
go. Yeah.
Done. Check.
Yeah. There it
is. Before it gets too late, let's switch gears a little and talk a little baseball. Because Carter, I know you're as dialed in with the baseball team as anyone. So good news today. The team won another series. They finally won on Sunday.
Yeah.
Bad news is still no 3-game sweeps. Or no, we took 2 out of 3 with Cal. So we're methodically moving through the season. There hasn't been any real cause for concern, at least for me. But with this Cal series, Carter, obviously Jacob Melton is still crushing it and making me look like an asshole for predicting that he wouldn't shatter like 7 different records, whatever. But what have you noticed? What did you notice in these last few games against Cal, and how do you feel about where the team's headed?
It's really hard to nitpick when you look at a record and you see them in the top 10 nationally, but I couldn't help but notice this weekend the lack of a shutdown closer. Having Mulholland on the roster the last couple of years, I think is a luxury that we kind of took for granted. I actually wrote an article about this for Beaver Blitz this week, talked to Mitch Canham after the game a few days ago about, kind of the closer situation, how they're approaching that right now. And it's totally a committee approach. And we've kind of seen that unfold over the last couple of games and last couple of series. Mitchell Verberg moving up to kind of a setup role, DJ Carpenter getting a look at the back end. But really nobody has been able to shut guys down back there. And that was a problem on Saturday against Cal, as the Golden Bears walked it off with a home run after that incredible comeback. But yeah, it's been an issue, that the back end of the bullpen, and I don't really know. I don't know where they go from here, if they give another guy a look or if they just kind of hope that somebody takes the job and runs with it. But that is the one concern I have. Other than that, everything's great. I mean, Jacob Melton, like you said, probably, pushing for Pac-12 Player of the Year. The starting pitchers have been awesome. The entire lineup 1 through 9 is absolutely crushing it. So yeah, I mean, outside of the back end of the bullpen, there's really nothing I would change about this team right now.
And what's rough is this weekend was the Saturday game with the comeback in the 9th inning, right? It's like, can you lose in any more heartbreaking fashion, being down 7-1 really in the 9th, and then you put on 6 and you lose in the bottom of the 9th and a walk off? It's just like
second pitch of the bottom half of the inning too is right away too.
It's like they were just totally spent. But I want to focus on a guy, obviously Travis Bazano. Like we talk about Melton, but Bazano is on fire right now. He's had 3 home runs in the last 9 days, raising his batting average up to 383 after today. Talk about what he looks like on the field. Is he a guy? Obviously, I think he's probably in some sort of award circuit, but could he be somebody that takes down some of the top awards for the Pac-12, or what's his ceiling looking like this season?
I could see it. Yeah, he really is kind of the definition of a five-tool player. He brings everything to the field. And what I have been most impressed with from him this year, outside of the fact that he's playing just out of his mind as a true freshman in one of the toughest conferences in college baseball, is his ability to bunt for singles. Like you see him walk up there and he lays down a bunt, and without fail, it is like placed in the perfect spot. Nobody can get to it in time, and he beats it out. Like, I really am curious what his what rate he converts bunts into singles. I asked him about this after what game was it? The Seattle game. I said, do your eyes kind of light up when you get the bunt sign from your third base coach? And he said, oh, I just have the green light to bunt whenever I want. He said all but one of his bunt singles had actually been just kind of, his choice. So the fact that, he has that baseball IQ to know when to do it, when not to, the fact that he has the athletic ability to make it work like 100% of the time, that to me has been the most impressive part of his game.
Carr, do you track like any sort of like clutch metrics? Because this guy seems like he has a knack to drive in runs regularly. He's like at like almost 20 RBIs in the last 10 games. Is that just an outcome of the entire lineup, producing and getting on base, or is he seemingly finding hits when they matter most?
I wish I did have a metric for that. I'm sure there's something out there that would calculate, some sort of number for you, but I think he is positioned perfectly in the order right now. He did start the season in the 2-hole, which is great for, somebody who has the bunting ability that he has. And, he's a guy who's not going to hit into double plays or anything. But putting him, a little further down, I think just unlocks so many RBI opportunities for him. And, typically you might want to reserve that spot for like a Jacob Melton or somebody who's going to get extra base hits and clear the bases. But what he unlocks with just his various skills, I think the 5-hole is kind of a perfect spot for him because, like you said, he has come through in a bunch of clutch spots. And, I don't see him moving out of that role right now, considering what he's been able to do with it.
If this team is going to go from just hard hitting, high scoring, really fun, sort of in the conversation of the top 10 rankings to where they are now, to a serious contender in Omaha, I think it's fair to say Mitch Canham will have to, take that step to become from a good manager, which everyone on the show thinks he is. Shout out Mitch, we love you. But to becoming like a great manager. I don't think you can win the College World Series without a great manager calling the shots. Have you seen him growing as a manager this season, just from game to game? Because we follow and pay attention, but we're not watching every single out and pitch and seeing all the adjustments and things like that. So I'm curious from someone who's definitely watched more than I have and picked up on some of the subtle things that are that happen so often in a baseball game. Like, have you seen sort of any anecdotal evidence that suggests he's picking up the job and not becoming Pat Casey? Because I know that's impossible, but showing signs of growth as a manager.
Yeah, I actually would say so. A couple of things that have stood out to me this year have to do with some of the lineup adjustments he's made and some of the in-game substitutions. So he, coming into this season, he talked about how depth was going to be one of the strengths of this team. He said, we kind of have this great problem where there's so many guys who are capable of joining the starting group, being in this starting 9, that it's difficult to put a lineup together. And in the beginning of the year, I think he did a good job of kind of identifying a 9 that he could rely on, and then identifying like a top couple of guys who he could bring in as a pinch hitter for a clutch situation, or who he could use as a matchup play. And then I think what he's done in the midweek games with getting a couple of different guys looks as well has been key. But the thing that has stood out to me the most is, third base has been a position that I think is still up for grabs. if we're being honest, the production from that position offensively and defensively hasn't been where it needs to be. And, he gave Mason Guerra a look, and the kid capitalized. This is a true freshman coming in who, for all intents and purposes should be riding the bench. When you have this much talent ahead of you, Jake Dukart comes to mind. I mean, you could go down the line. There's a handful of guys who can play third base. He saw something in Guerra that he liked. He gave him a chance, and he kind of ran with it. He struggles, in the Cal series, and Mitch Canham makes a change. Jamin Trotsky he gets a couple of big hits. These are the moves, when you bring in a guy who you kind of have a good feeling about, and then he converts. That reminds me of Pat Casey. That's something that Casey was really known for. He would see something in practice, or he would see something in one given at bat, give a guy a bigger role, and he would 9 times out of 10 convert on it. And so that's something this year that has kind of stood out to me as something where I'm like, okay, Canham's getting it right now.
Is he still bringing out the hard hats?
I haven't seen him this year. No. That picture, I don't know if you've seen that picture of Troy Claunch wearing the hard hat in the dugout, though. That is like one of my all-time favorite Oregon State baseball photos right now.
If Oregon State's to make a run at Omaha and in Omaha, what would you say is one thing that needs to happen if we're to make a run?
Jake Fenwick needs to come back to help the pitching depth, and then they're going to have to figure out how they're going to manage the bullpen to get enough production out of them. I just think that the bullpen has been way too shaky this year. They're going to need a couple of guys to kind of carve out roles, whether that's having a defined closer or having a defined guy you can go to for 3 or 4 innings if your starter's struggling. They just don't have either of those things right now. And quite frankly, the production isn't there across the board. I think the pitching staff, I don't want to say it's holding the team back, but right now you're looking at a team that at times has to rely on its offense to score 10 runs to win a game. And that's just not sustainable, and particularly not in the postseason where you're playing, 5 games in 4 days potentially.
Right.
All right. Anything else for Carter, you two?
No, Carter, if you have anything you'd like to plug before you bounce, the stage is yours.
Only thing I can plug is beaverblitz.com, which is the source for spring football coverage, daily baseball coverage. We have pretty much everything. We have expanded a little bit into even gymnastics, a little bit of wrestling if you're active in our message board. We are working super hard at kind of expanding and bringing a more holistic approach to what we do right now. Myself being able to kind of do this full time now that I'm out of school, I have kind of taken it upon myself. It's kind of my project now to expand our reach a little bit. And that's what I've been doing with the Damn Podcast Live that we talked about a little bit earlier as well. So we're doing our best to bring the people what they want. And I think we do a pretty good job of it. So check out Beaver Blitz throughout the spring as we gear up for another big football season under Jonathan Smith. What is this, year 6, 7, 6?
I'm losing track.
5?
We don't know how to count, Carter. Don't worry.
I don't know either.
Well, I mean, there's the COVID year in there too. Like, numbers just sort of cease to mean anything. Damn Podcast Live is live on YouTube. What nights? No, is it?
We've been going on Wednesdays. We're on a hiatus right now because, as I mentioned, we're on spring break, and I'm heading to Greece. But
for sure, where are you going to Greece? Do you want to just brag about your trip for?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, instead of plugging my employer, I'll talk about Greece. So 3 nights in Athens.
Nice.
3 nights in Santorini, and then back to Athens for 1 more night.
Okay,
that's awesome.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Tell us everything about the food and the drinks and everything you do over there. And Beaver Blitz has merch now too, right?
Yes, we do. So
beaverblitz.com.
Part of I'm actually wearing my Beaver Blitz polo right now. Part of our 20th year anniversary. our 20th birthday was on March 1st. So as part of that celebration, we launched our merchandise store, and the link is super long. So I unfortunately cannot plug it right now because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's
copy and
at Beaver Blitz in the lodge. So
nice.
We've got, 20th anniversary gear, all sorts of logo gear if you want to rep Beaver Blitz. Some high quality stuff. Actually, we were, kind of going into it without really knowing what we were getting from this site, but this polo is actually pretty nice. So
nice.
Hey, I can plug it. I'll plug it for you, Carter. You got beaverblitzmerch.myspreadshop.com. We'll get you there.
There it is.
There it is.
Nice.
Carter Bahns, beaverblitz.com, Damn Podcast, Damn Podcast Live, and at Carter Bahns on Twitter. Bahns is spelled Bahns. If you're listening to this and not, would be flabbergasted if you're not already following Carter, but create another account and follow him again. That's the only way to get all of the coverage that's coming out of Carter on all things Oregon State sports. Carter, thank you so much for joining us. Have fun in Greece, dude.
Hell yeah.
Super exciting.
Yeah, I'll try to tweet out as many photos as I can to rub it in everyone's faces.
Please do. It's probably going to snow in Minneapolis next week. So I'll look at those photos of Santorini and pretend I'm with you. So, all right. Thanks so much, Carter. Have a great day.
Thanks, Carter.
Thanks for having me, guys.
See you, man. My hand hurts so fucking bad holding this microphone. You can keep that in the show, JP.
I will. Like hey, shout out to Carter. That was good. That was very insightful.
That was fun.
That was very, very, very insightful. I love being able to talk to someone who's feet on the ground at practice, at the baseball games. I think the last episode of Damn Podcast I listened to, Carter opened it with he literally ran from Goss to his apartment. And then clicked record, and I'm just like, that's commitment that I wouldn't have. I'm sitting on my couch opening a beer, and I need to run to my desk very much closer than Carter's apartment is to Goss, I'm sure. So yeah, great conversation. I feel better about the baseball team. And Carter, you heard it here, listeners. Now that he's not on the show anymore and can't speak for himself, Carter guaranteed JT Daniels grad transfer to Oregon State University, the Harvard of the Pac-12 and the Paris of the Pacific Northwest. So
he seemed to have a level of certainty that none of us did.
Yeah.
I'm feeling cautiously optimistic.
You said it with your words, Carter, but you said it with your eyes.
Yeah.
So,
and JT's boots. There's something about the boots.
You noticed the boots. He knew exactly the source of the NIL from Zaxby's. Have you guys ever been to a Zaxby's?
No.
What is that? It's fast food only in the South, I think.
Interesting.
Is this the part of the podcast where we look things up? I've heard it ZAXBY''S.
Zaxby's near me.
I'm sure. Where's the?
There's one. Oh no, that showed me. It showed me an Arby's in San Leandro.
Dude, Arby's still slaps though.
It's not Zaxby's.
Arby's does.
And I'm not really that close to San Leandro.
This is why I need to get on. I have begun work on the Belligerent Beavs Encyclopedia, but we need to know exactly how many episodes we've brought up Arby's because it is more than 3.
Have you guys ever been to Cane's?
Yeah, Raising Cane's.
No, is it?
It's Raising Cane's is the full name, but the science says Cane's bigger. So
yes. where? Just out of curiosity, where did you have Cane's?
There's 2 in Minneapolis now, but it started in Baton Rouge.
I had it out of all places, I had it in Hawaii. I thought it was a Hawaii-specific fast food place. It was so good.
No.
Oh, it was so good.
That makes me happy that they have Cane's in Hawaii, though.
Yeah, they do.
The speed that we just went from Carter Bahns to Cane's was impressive.
Bahns and Cane's.
Yeah.
Bahns and Cane's.
Yeah. Well, if you take the first letter of Carter and the second sound of Bahns, you get Cane's. And Carter mentioned a competing fast food restaurant as JT Daniels' NIL deal to throw the dogs off the scent.
Wow, smart. God, he's smart.
We're on to you, Carter.
Yeah.
I love how Carter just signed off the pod and we're like saying, Carter guaranteed this. Thank you again for joining the show, Carter. We won't throw you under the bus next time, I promise. We need to move on to women's basketball, which
man,
NIT dream dies a slow, painful death at the hands of the UCLA Bruins. It was a rough game, rough start. Ladies rallied as they always do. Comeback fell just short. Overall, season ends with a 17-14 record, and not exactly the season we dreamed of when we started talking about this team a few months ago. I listened to the post-game press conference, and Ruick made some good point. He wasn't really making excuses, but he just sort of talked, with trying to have the view of 30,000 feet from the season, and brought up a great point, including today. This team lost to two teams that didn't participate in the NCAA tournament, and that was UCLA, who is very good, going to the NIT Final Four, the Final Four of the NIT, and Arizona State, who got hot and made a lot of good things happen this year. So that just, I think, speaks volumes of the schedule. Injuries to multiple players, one of them being arguably your best player, and a 30-plus day COVID interruption. And I think, Ruick would have loved to have overcome that and gotten back into the big dance, but credit where credit's due. These ladies fought through all of it and played pretty damn tough basketball the whole way.
And they got more time to play together. We talked about this.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. And it just felt like one of those seasons where the calls didn't go your way, the ball didn't drop your way. Like, it wasn't a lack of effort or a lack of talent. It just didn't go your way this year, and that will happen from time to time.
Yeah, and today is a really good example of that, right? Getting down 21-7 in the first quarter at home against UCLA, just not the start you want for a game that could put you in the Final Four of the women's NIT. And just the shots weren't dropping. I mean, 2 and 9 from 3. This team shoots better normally from 3. And look, they stretched the season further than if you would have told us at the beginning of the season all of the different turmoil and tumultuous stuff they would have come across throughout the year, we would have never expected this to have gotten this far. And at least far in the sense of how long they'd be playing in the year. And to be late March with all the stuff all the adversity they came across, it's a win. I mean, this sucks. I was hoping that they'd make a run, and I called it out too. I said point blank, if you want to prove to your haters, your doubters, that you should have been in the tournament. I mean, should have been is one thing, and how long you would have, if it was better for the team, is another one. But if you wanted to prove you should have been in the tournament, make it the Final Four. And they didn't do that, but I think it showed, maybe it was a reality check to everybody that this team just had too much adversity to get that far. So, they balled out. The seniors balled out. The team balled out, and it's just it was one of those seasons. I don't expect this to be a recurring theme next year. I think they're going to come out with a big fire under their asses next year and be ready to win those close games and beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
Yeah, I think this is going to be huge for them. And when confetti's showering down and they're cutting down the nets of a regional final and getting back to the Final Four, I think Ruick and Taylor, Kennedy, Talia, and the rest of this team will be able to point to this as a turning point and a stepping stone that got them there. Got to shout out the seniors who will for sure be leaving. Emily Coding, Taya Adams, and Jovana Subasic leaving the program. And in addition to that, fan favorite, Belligerent Beavs favorite, Ellie Mack, and I am formally nominating Ellie Mack for induction into the Belligerent Beavs Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
accepted.
If either, I was gonna say, if anyone's like, well, let's send this to the board of trustees, like we have one, we do. We seriously do. We have lawyers waiting in a boardroom in an unmarked conference, center somewhere. Ellie Mack, you're in the Belligerent Beavs Hall of Fame. I know you're pissed off about the NIT dream come to an end, but you're in the Belligerent Beavs Hall of Fame, baby.
Thank
Welcome.
You.
And also in that press conference, Taya Crosdell was asked about her future because she has 1 year left of eligibility, but is graduating, and was a non-committal on that front, as I'm sure we all can understand in that moment. So.
She didn't want to go to Oregon State for 6 years.
It's fun.
It is. I don't think
it only gets better. Oregon State is like a fine wine. It just gets better with time.
It's in the middle of wine country.
Yeah.
That's why it's the Paris of the Pacific Northwest.
Right. It's like a nice Burgundy. It just gets better.
Bordeaux,
Cabernet
Sauvignon, Sommelier, other wine terms of that nature.
Champagne.
Champagne. Mimosa. Oh, well, yeah. Congrats on another great season, ladies. And we also have to talk about gymnastics. Next week, I promise, Amy Sinico, we'll lead with gymnastics next week.
Oh, we have to.
Because the regionals are this week.
Yeah, in Seattle.
In Ben's neck of the woods. JP, are you going up? Are you taking the train up? Are you driving up?
I'm trying to figure out the whole schedule, and it's actually really funny. I was like, I'll just go up Saturday. I think it's going to be on Saturday. And then my wife was like, you have a T-ball game. You have to coach. It's opening day, so it's like not just the game, but it's like the whole ceremony too. And I was like, oh, yeah, damn, I forgot that this
Who's setting up the first tee on opening day for T-ball? I was going to ask who's throwing the first pitch.
What's your team name?
We don't even have one yet, dude. We're orange, but we don't have a name yet because we've had every practice rained out other than one for 30 minutes. So
Orange Crush.
So you're gonna give them the chance to name?
Yeah,
I thought it was gonna be the Giants.
No, I'm gonna probably send an email out. This is totally off topic, but anyways,
this is very on topic for Belligerent Beavs. Naming a T-ball team, this is like what we were born to do. This is the most responsibility anyone should trust us with.
But I saw that they may be competing in regionals on Thursday night, which won't.
For a second, I thought that T-ball. Sorry.
No, which won't work very well for me. I'm gonna be driving back to Portland from Sonoma. We'll arrive late Wednesday, and I'm like, I can't just get on a train the next day and go to Seattle, unfortunately. So if it was Sunday, I would do it. If it was Saturday,
it could be Sunday, right?
I don't know. I think it's already settled. I mean, look at the composite schedule for Oregon State.
Do we have a composite schedule?
I might try to go up.
You should.
I might just go.
I don't have excuses, Benny.
I might go into work into the office on Thursday and then just skirt on up to the university.
Yeah, what are you waiting for then?
Yeah, I'm just for it to be Thursday.
Spend some time on the Ave.
Yeah,
I hung out in that neighborhood in a minute and a half.
Right. Yeah, me neither.
Listen to some Blue Scholars. JP, please play 5 seconds of No Rest for the Weary by Blue Scholars.
There's no rest for the weary, just another day grinding up stone till they.
Yeah, that's a great song.
God.
Cut.
All right, we're not done. But
shout out to
I think her name is Jade.
Who? Jade. Jade.
I don't know.
I believe it's Ade. It's a soft J.
Oh, I bet you know who would know. ESPN.
Ade Maria.
They seem to cover all of these great athletes, right?
Ade Maria. Great call. JP, please play 5 seconds of Ave Maria by anyone who is ever saying Ade Maria. You have to do that one. If you don't, I'm going to fight you. Use the pentatonics version if you want to. It's the most pop culture friendly.
But that stud athlete, however you pronounce her name.
I think it's Jade Carey.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right.
I had to dig
right.
for it because it's not on the ESPN site. Weirdly, they call themselves the worldwide leader, but they're not leading shit with this.
Yeah.
Which is strange because I think one of the best gymnasts in the world, who is the all-around champion in all Pac-12 in several events.
I think you're right.
Several perfect 10s and should have had more perfect 10s. You can find me at belligerentbeavs@gmail.com. Subject line, show me the goddamn blemish, judges. Yeah, the inbox is empty because there wasn't a blemish there. Jade Carey is who I believe you're referring to.
That rings a bell. And she's an All-American 5 times over.
Nice. And there's how many events?
Well, technically there's 4, but then there's
all around. Yeah. So All-American in is being an All-American in everything you're eligible to be an All-American in good?
Yes.
Okay. I
think so.
I would have imagined.
I'm a 0-time All-American, so I don't know, but I would assume yes.
Okay. Let's say it is.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jade Carey. ESPN won't congratulate you, but we just keep Will.
I feel like there should be a 30 for 30 for Jade Carey this year. And they haven't even mentioned her.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, the dominance is out of this world. Out of this world. Benny, you just lit a joint.
Oh, man.
That's a celebratory joint.
It looks stronger. Hold on.
We're the type of debauchery that happens on screen is more than I think even the listeners suspect. I was really hoping we could hold it together for that one, but God, that was just too funny.
I had to calm myself down because I was getting too mad at ESPN.
I'm so mad at you. Look at
judges.
the drugs you're making me do, ESPN.
Okay. Speaking of mad.
Oh, you're gonna do it. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna transition to men's basketball.
Oh, wait, no. I thought you were going to do a play on the name, but we have to shout out Maddie Degan before we stop.
Oh, yeah, go do that one first.
Also, I thought you were going to be like, speaking of Maddie Degan, who is also mentioned as the funniest member of the team in one of the videos that they did at the meet you and I went to, JP.
They do that on all the broadcasts, too. It's really fun to watch.
Oh, dope. Yeah, that's awesome.
Whenever there's a stream and not like a real broadcast.
Right. So Degan also landed on all Pac-12 conference teams, finished 4th in the conference championships, which is the highest finish of her career with a total of 39.450. I think it should have been a 40.000. Again, show me the fucking blemish. It wouldn't be on a t-shirt if it wasn't a real demand. You have one day, judges. They always give an ultimatum. Degan is tied for 18th in the country in the all-around and tied for 4th in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, that's dope.
That is dope. I thought you were interrupting me. I thought you were like, it's her first nod for the all-around and third first team of her career after she was first team on vault and beam in both vault and beam in 2021. Thank you for the insight, Amy Sinicola. And congratulations to Maddie Degan, senior on the gymnastics team. And obviously, job's not done. It ain't done yet.
We ain't done yet.
But we're already incredibly proud of you.
We've already done some things, yeah.
Exactly. So keep it going. Maddie Degan, Jade Carey, Tanya Chaplin, and all of the amazing Oregon State gymnastics team. One of our favorite gymnastics team in the country. What we think is the best gymnastics team in the country.
By far.
And hopefully my esteemed co-host come support you in Seattle. They have they're just a whisper away and don't have any excuses.
I'll be there.
Jesus. Now they don't want you to come, Benny. God damn it. Now you made it weird. Oregon State University also has a men's basketball team, and people are leaving that men's basketball team. Deshaun Davis gone, whatever.
Yeah, we've got scoops, but we're not going to dig too deep in these scoops. I love the scoops. Bring the scoops because we can talk about these scoops.
Send us your scoops, even if they're not real, because
we don't need to be.
We'll never give ourselves enough credit to think anyone is actually sending us real scoops anyway. So just the idea that they could be real. But yeah,
if they're fake, great.
If they're fake,
even
great.
better.
Even better.
Honestly,
even better. This is a narrative fiction podcast, which is why we always tell new listeners to start at episode 1. You need to know the origin of Chop 'em. This is like a role-playing game. Yeah, you can't start Zelda with the most recent Zelda. Are you fucking new here?
But Deshaun Davis out. Deshaun Davis out.
Yeah, I wanted him to stay, but I don't like. It's a team that went 3-28. So can you really like look at it and be like, oh, no, I wanted this piece of it to stay the same.
But looking back too, you look at how he kind of took over in that role, and he was a great player for us. And I don't want to like downplay how good he actually was this year, and he came on really strongly.
He was playing ball. So.
He's like the first time leading Oregon State in assists or Pac-12 in assists like since Gary Payton. So like the guy balled out, and I appreciate Deshaun for his contribution to the team and the program. It didn't work out this year, and it was very evident, and not just like some of the interviews that like Wayne did on camera, but also off camera for like the Gazette Times, for example, where he made it very clear that there's going to be some tough decisions about guys leaving, including guys who are key contributors. And Deshaun Davis was that. I mean, he was the epitome of that. Like, he was probably the only consistent contributor for the majority of the season due to health or due to playing time, whatever it was. But I thought back about this. His playing time really was the outcome of necessity, if you think about it. And but as a viewer and a fan, I watched him take over, and I was really excited about him doing so. I kind of felt like he was earning it, but there's some players when they just get their minutes, they just produce, and it's a factor of getting those minutes. And he got them, and you look with rose-colored lenses at that, like how he got those minutes. You're like, he's working his ass off in practice. He's like a good teammate. He's crushing it in games, and I think that what's happening right now with him leaving is a direct reflection of that maybe not actually being the case, and it being, getting that playtime out of necessity. And some guys ball out when they're the only factor on the court. And I think he did that. So while I think it's a bummer to lose him, I think that the numbers are kind of a mirage of what kind of productivity he could bring to a fully healthy and cohesive team. So I wish him best of luck. No hard feelings. I hope he feels the same way. But not too worried. We're
not going to have any hard feelings with anyone who leaves.
Never.
This team.
Yeah.
Nope. For sure.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting, bloody offseason for the Oregon State men's basketball team. I'm sure there'll be more news for us to cover. Speaking of men's basketball, I don't know if that's the person in the room with you feeding you pizza, JP, but condolences to your brother-in-law, Matt Bauman, and his Arizona State Wildcats. Bear down. I still don't know why they say bear down, but bear down nonetheless for the Wildcats. I wanted them to win. I was really excited when I saw Gonzaga lose because I was like, most people pick Gonzaga, but I picked Arizona. And then 20 minutes later, the Arizona game happened, and I was like, "Argh." Did we all have Arizona?
I had Arizona. Yeah. I had Arizona beating Gonzaga.
Me too.
I had Arizona being Duke, and since just the whole bracket is I think in most of the pools I'm in, everyone has lost their champion for the most part.
Yeah, I've lost my entire Final Four.
Dude, my kid's got 2 of his Final Four.
What? Who?
Kansas is UNC. And the only other ones he picked Gonzaga, which is a good pick, and then he picked Loyola Chicago.
I have Kansas. Yeah, I had Duke and I had Kansas, and I have Duke. I had Duke beating Purdue. So if Duke wins, I think there's 1 or 2 low stakes ones that I could win, but it's just been a fun tournament. So
yeah, you got to see St.
The
Shut
Peacocks.
up,
baby. That was so fun. I was sitting next to
Cox.
him, dude. We're in the section of all people cheering for St. Peter's, and I'm like, obviously, anyone who's here with like no diehard reading interest is just cheering for St. Peter's. They were all like actual St. Peter's fans. I was sitting next to a dude, St. Peter's class of '78. And his son, current St. Peter's student, was with him, and I hugged them both like very tightly after the game was over. It was so fun to share that moment with them.
That's so cool.
So shout out to the St. Peter's Peacocks. We're recording this after they lost to North Carolina. Just the magic ran out. I was exchanging texts with a few people before or during that game where it's like, what happened? I'm like, all their other games are at night, and there's more magic in the moonlight. You know, that sunlight came and broke the spell. So, but
damn,
great run for the Peacocks. Great run for us in this episode. Thank you again to the one and only Carter Bahns, who lives and breathes all things Oregon State sports and is getting a much-needed vacation. So while Carter is relaxing in Greece, you should slide into his DMs and ask him if he's heard anything about JT Daniels. Oh, man, I love it. Thank you again, Carter. You're a gem and a champ. And obviously, we appreciate the insight because, you know, we love to mess around and just talk about our reactions to the things that we're seeing on screens and reading, but you know, always great to have someone who's in there in person and making the type of insight that Carter does, and no one does it better. So thank you again to Carter Bahns for being here. Thank you to you, JP Bertram, our fearless leader in wine country, celebrating with family, still taking the time to make this happen, traveling with the microphone like a professional pod. Do they think you're crazy? They know how much fun we have with this.
Yeah.
And they all listen and follow, so they know how good it is too. I think this is a great podcast, in my unbiased opinion.
You're right.
I agree.
Exactly. This is a weird Marriott. I'm just gonna say it. But I'm glad the internet has not pooped out yet. I thought it was going to. So at JP Bertram on Instagram, at the Trill J on Twitter. He's too trill to be real, but he is real, and we're glad that he is. And as always, in Tacoma, Washington, Benny with the good quaff, aka Benjamin Lawrence Sebastian Wehage, at Benny L 1986 on your socials, and me, Terry Horseman, at Terry Horseman on Twitter, at Terrence Horseman on my more formal Instagram. Coming to you for the first time and last time from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I just crushed a Yingling, and I'm feeling great, and I have a flight home in the morning. Ready to sleep in my own bed. It's been a while. Been a week in a hotel.
Have a safe flight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, listener, for tuning in to this 41st episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. We've got some shit to announce in the coming weeks. I do believe we have either days and weeks, months, years, decades, all of the above. Merch stuff is coming up. We're going to do we have a very special Twitter Spaces in the works, some more collabs coming, and thinking about some live events. Ooh. Did I say too much? Well, it's too late now. So remember to hit us up at Bellig Beavs on Twitter, at Belligerent Beavs, everywhere else for the insane knowledge drops that are coming. But more importantly than that, remember, no matter what the word is in Wordle, no matter how hard you try, you cannot spell chop 'em without hope. Chop 'em.
Chop 'em.
Chop 'em.